Alrighty, we are up and running and should successfully be streaming. My phone just gave me a ding, which is generally a good sign that we're streaming. Let me move one thing quick here. And welcome everyone to yet another Nerdologists Dungeons and Dragons character creation. I'm looking at doing a little bit more of a general overview as to what the next one we're gonna do, and kind of just talking about like how I'm gonna build these characters. I'm thinking, instead of splitting it out into 3 separate ones where I go through and build 20 levels of a character, I might just end up going through and building a character and then kind of going through the process what I did, not actually showing everything like I have been before. So we had a request from Tom Cantwell. If you follow me on Twitter, you can find him that way, to do the Defenders from Marvel. And so if you're not familiar with the Defenders, that's the Netflix Marvel shows have been focusing around the Defenders group. Defenders Marvel. And I just want to verify something. Comics. Let's do the comics here. And I need to adjust slightly. Membership. Let's just go down there. You can see that there have been a number of different characters. However, these are the 4 that we're going to focus on and the 4 that we're going to build. Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and the Iron Fist. So Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, up here, and the Iron Fist. And I just kind of wanted to go over some of their different abilities and things that I'm going to have to think about and work through quickly. Let's start with the Iron Fist, actually. So he uses superpowered punches, basically. Martial arts, hand-to-hand combat, and he's going to be a fairly simple build. I think he's primarily going to be monk, and that's what we're going to see. You have your punches that you can use to do. Let's move that so we're not getting the hover text. You have your punches that we're going to be able to use, and the punches have magical effects once you get high enough level. So that's going to be what we're going for. I believe previously I might have used Monk, Way of the Shadow. He might be actually Monk, Way of the Iron Fist, or Way of the Open Fist, not Iron Fist. He is the Iron Fist. Let me double check the name on that. Let's see, that's Druid, so we have a little ways to go. That's Sorcerer, Rogue, Ranger. Wave the Open Hand. That's the one. And that's better than Shadow or 4 Elements for what we need. And he is going to fight, like most of these guys, without a weapon. Or that's what he's mainly known for. So just looking at that, and it's like key to augment his physical and mental abilities to peak levels. So we're going to go that way for him. Then the next one we're going to look at here is Jessica Jones, and her powers. She's a reasonably skilled detective and hand-to-hand combat. So again, we're probably looking at a monk, but we're not going to go as high in monk. In fact, we might do monk. Like, she's going to be a strength build monk, which is going to be interesting to do. And we're going to probably go with strength build monk, and then maybe rogue to pick up, or bard, probably rogue to pick up expertise, which is then going to allow us to be able to get that detective ability in there. She's going to have expertise in some things, and like those will be the abilities that we feature for her. And next up is Luke Cage. So Luke Cage, we're going to do a combo of two classes. As we go down here, superhuman strength and self-taught hand-to-hand combat. But the thing that is interesting is this right here. His skin is steel hard and his muscles and bone tissue are super dense. So we're going to have to go barbarian on this for one big thing. So it's going to be barbarian monk, most likely. But with barbarian, we can either go path of the totem or path of the berserker. We can choose which one we want for that. But I believe somewhere in here or no, we actually are going to go the totem path, because by going the totem path you get your spirit totem, which at the first level you can do bear. When raging, you have resistance to all damage except psychic damage. That makes a ton of sense. That's going to be how that one works really well. And at 15th level, so we'll probably do 5 levels of monk and 15 of barbarian to get persistent rage. So now at the high level, he is going to have that ability to take a punch, and the damage is always going to be halved. Like, it's going to be really, really tricky to hurt him. Finally, and probably the trickiest one to do is going to be Daredevil. So Daredevil falls into the category that we've seen before, where he's going to be a monk. Like, that's what his abilities really line up with. However, he has this ability or this fact about him where he can't see. So how are we going to deal with that in Dungeons and Dragons terms? So fortunately, Dungeons and Dragons actually gives us one really handy, useful thing that we can look at, and that is blind sight. Blind sight is a really quite powerful ability where like dragons can have it, so if somebody's invisible coming towards them, they're still going to see them. They're going to be able to know where the person is and fully sense them. So that actually makes a lot of sense for Daredevil. He has that blind sight, and he gets improved sense of touch, stuff like that. It goes through a lot of this. Basically, all his other senses are enhanced. beyond normal. And so he has this gymnastic ability that's not necessarily above human, but because of his abilities, we're going to give him a feat for sure when we look at, or when I build him. And I'm going to give him the alert feat, simply because with that blind sight, he's going to be able to know and react faster than anybody else, and which makes a lot of sense. And he's a lawyer, so that'll be an interesting build. He's probably going to have... I'm not sure what his low stats are going to be. Maybe wisdom be a little bit lower. Wisdom and charisma. Intelligence has to be... I think intelligence is what I would use as the stat for a lawyer. So I won't think about having that too low. But as compared to everybody else, he actually has weapons that he uses. Jessica Jones probably would have some weapons that she uses, but I don't think that anybody else really does. I mean, if you look here at Danny Rand, also known as the Living Weapon, so he doesn't have anything. Luke Cage isn't going to be able to take damage, or take much damage, so he doesn't really use weapons. Like, he's a tank without being a tank. Jessica Jones is a little bit interesting as well, because she's reasonably skilled detective, and hand-to-hand combat are her abilities. Resistance to physical injury, but not necessarily as resistant as Luke Cage. So we're going to have to figure out a way to maybe mimic that a little bit in her. But we'll probably be able to figure out a way to do that with her unarmored defense. Because as a detective, I would say you need wisdom as a higher stat. Hand-to-hand combat, dex. We know that she has superhuman strength, so we'll add in some information for that, or add in a higher stat for that. Con will probably be decent, but charisma and intelligence are probably going to be a little bit lower. Wisdom, wisdom is definitely going to be her higher stat. So we're going to have like a wisdom based character, or with a little bit higher intelligence based, and we're going to give him probably, he might have less in terms of defense than the rest. Luke Cage is going to get the Barbarian's unarmored defense. So if I remember what that one is, looking for it right here. There we are. Barbarian's unarmored defense. 10 plus dex plus con. So, I mean, he's really going to get those high physical stats. Dex and con. Definitely. Strength has to be. And then he's going to probably suffer in the int in charisma. That is one nice thing about the Defenders, is Daredevil has a level of charisma around him, but it's none of them are necessarily the most charismatic characters. So that gives us one stat that's fairly easy as a dump stat for them. And it's not going to be terrible for any of them, but it's not going to be exceedingly high. So then just flipping back to the Iron Fist, seeing if there's anything that really have to think about additionally with him. Like, he can heal himself and heal others. So we might dip a little bit for him just to get that low-level healing ability. And for that, probably even going with... maybe going with... It's actually kind of interesting because we could then give him a low-level spell ability that you can flavor your magical punch. He's a martial arts fighter, and he doesn't necessarily always use his abilities to deal with it. So if we want the healing ability, I think that is Lay on Hands, which he can get at first level, 5 times your paladin level to use, which I think it makes the most sense, I think, for the Iron Fist. So we're gonna probably add that in for him, and we're gonna want more than 5 points of healing, so we'll probably drop a few levels into Paladin, maybe 5 as well, kind of what I'm going to look at for that. But this seems like it's going to be fairly straightforward builds. The fact that there's not really magical abilities. Now the Iron Fist will get some magic, especially if we go to 5th level. Maybe we'll just go to 4th, because at 4th level you still only have 1st level spell slots. And if we flip back, and I'm flipping back right now to the spell section of the player's handbook, if you're playing along at home, page 208, we have some things that we could use. I would think that probably Thunderous Smite would be the only spell that I would give him. Or Paladin also has the ability, and I'm not sure what level they get the ability I'm thinking at. To find him again. Not that piece of the book. This one. Ranger Paladin. Here we go. So at 2nd level, they get Divine Smite, which adds 2d8 damage. So I might actually leave off even giving him a spell. Or maybe give him, if there's a low level, 1st level healing spell, give that to him. That's interesting. So just reading down here. Absorb energy into himself that he channels into his own power, and under certain circumstances he can focus his chi to create a nexus points between dimensions. Since they say under certain circumstances, that's probably going to be something that I just don't bother doing. I feel like that would be pretty impressive, but you would have to go to a class, probably not even Paladin, to be able to travel between realms. So like you could go cleric, but you have to get to a 7th level spell slot to get plane shift, which is a lot to go into cleric to get one spell basically when we need more monk as well. So I might not even give him a spell. He can just use it as a pseudo key ability to increase his punch, his attack. And then we'll also get the ability to heal. Now there are some other stuff in here capable of fusing his consciousness with that of another person to perceive thoughts and memories, or emotions and memories. You can flavor that if you want into the character. I might leave that out and just give him a proficiency in insight. With a proficiency in insight, then he now kind of has that ability. It's the ability to read people, which works pretty well. So that's kind of the overview of what I'm going to be doing and going through. I am planning on building the characters before you guys see them. It takes a while to build the characters when I'm doing it streaming, simply because I want to talk, and I also don't want to ignore the camera when I have to go dive into the book and read something to verify if it works. So I'm thinking that I'll build it separately and go through kind of how it looks. If I'm feeling really ambitious, I'll build it to like 3rd level, save it there, build it to 10th and then 20th, and save at those different level points to potentially show off kind of like, if you want to play from the ground up, here's how you can do it for the defenders. What to look to add, when and where I dip into some things. But the thing with any superhero like this, simply to get the abilities that you need, you have to kind of get to that 20th level to get every ability that you need, or get fairly high. I think there are some of these guys that maybe Jessica Jones, I can get her to a higher level. She might actually be ready to play as Jessica Jones at 10th level. The issue is for like the Iron Fist, or especially for most of these actually might be able to be played at a little bit earlier level. But to really get the flavor of who they are, then you're going to have those higher levels to be able to get the stats themselves to the point you want them to be, and to get the feats that you might want into them. I might fudge the stats a little bit in terms of, so every 4 levels you can add 2 points to your stats, or something like that. It varies from class to class, but I might fudge that a little bit simply to start out the stats at what I think they should be, and then go from there. Anyways, with that, this has been about 25 minutes, so that's a good length. I'm going to cut this off now. Thank you for joining me. I will be back with another monster on Thursday, so if you have any suggestions, let me know, and I will see you then. So for Nerdologists.com, I've been your Nerdologist Petter, signing off.